So we talked about elephants as nature-based solutions with some points about how they affect the ecosystem, seed dispersals, and selection of species. This is a new paper that just came out in the Proceedings of the National Academies of Sciences in the US, which does a meta-study of published literature to put together a story on how elephants tend to increase the above ground carbon. This has been known, but the mechanisms were not always very obvious. So let's read the abstract and what is called significance, words meant for general audience, and then a table which looked at some of the quantitative and qualitative results that have been reported in various references used for this meta-study. Megaherbivores have pervasive ecological effects. In African rainforests, elephants can increase above-ground carbon, though the mechanisms are unclear. Here, we combine large unpublished dataset of forest plant elephant feeding with published browsing preferences totaling nearly 200,000 records covering more than 800 plant species and with nutritional data for 145 species. Elephants increase carbon stocks firstly by promoting high wood density trees via preferential browsing on leaves from low wood density species, which are more palatable and digestible. Secondly, dispersing seeds of trees that are relatively large and have the highest above average wood density among the tree guilds based on dispersal mode. Loss of forest elephants could cause an increase in abundance of fast-growing low wood density trees and a 6 to 9% decline in above-ground carbon stocks due to regeneration failure of elephant dispersed trees. These results demonstrate the importance of megaherbivores for maintaining diverse high-carbon tropical forests. Successful elephant conservation will contribute to climate mitigation at globally relevant scale. In terms of significance, very large herbivores with body mass greater than 1,000 kilograms, also known as megaherbivores, can significantly influence the structure and function of ecosystems. So this is where evolution has worked in a way that elephants choose what they want, but the co-benefits and the response of the ecosystem is such that they adjust to the positive impacts of elephants, because elephants do perturb the forest significantly when they want to graze. They can knock down trees to reach the foliage at the top, for example. So you have to see how the species recover after elephants have done their work. Most of our knowledge on the ecological role of megaherbivores is based on the African savanna. Much less is known about forest-dwelling megaherbivores. We show that forest elephants can promote higher above-ground carbon through browsing preferences and seed dispersal. Forest elephant browsing promotes high carbon density plants through the consumption of less carbon dense plants. Elephant dispersed trees are larger and have higher carbon density compared with the trees with other dispersal modes. So there are smaller herbivores, there are birds involved, and accidental carriers, and so on and so forth. These results highlight the importance of forest elephants and other megaherbivores for maintaining biodiversity and high carbon stocks in tropical forests. So in terms of literature and the results, summary of literature review of the ecological effects of elephants in closed canopy forests across the Afrotropics. So here are the descriptions, qualitative and quantitative results, location, elephant density and sampled areas, and the corresponding reference which you will have to look up with the paper. Mortality and regeneration. Mortality rate after elephant damage. So this is the diameter at breast height, which is greater than 10 centimeters. So it determines the size of the tree. Annual recovery rate is so mortality rate after elephant damage is 1.4%. This is the result from Kibale, Uganda, for 5.3 hectare area. Recovered after elephant damage, diameter at breast height is greater than 10 centimeters, 1.2% annual rate in recovery. So mortality and recovery, you can see the difference is tiny. So again, from the same place as you can imagine. Sapling mortality rate 4% annual, and seedling and sapling mortality rate at height greater than 10 centimeter is 15 to 18%. Tree toppling and branch breaking, 2 to 9.9 centimeter diameter at breast height, toppled 40.9%, broken branch 24% for greater than 10 centimeter DBH, toppled so this is DBH of toppled at 40.9%, broken branch 7%, 68% breaks by elephants. Qualitatively speaking, tree topplings and broken branches decline sharply for trees greater than 10 centimeter diameter at breast height. Larger trees suffer more bark stripping, so there is a selective effect on smaller trees, which is what we said in the abstract. Reduced regeneration, browsed species contained, 19% saplings of canopy and 48% sub-canopy species. Trampling movement, and so this was Bwindi in Uganda, smaller area. Coming back here, browse species contain 19% saplings of canopy, 48% sub-canopy species. Trampling movement and grubbing prevents regeneration in 25% of the sampled area. Canopy opening of less than 10% and forest gaps of less than 300 meters squared reduces elephant. So most breaks between 1 meter and 3 meter height, and 2 centimeter and 6 centimeter diameter at breast height in a qualitative sense. So these are from several sites in Gabon, Shimba Hills National Reserve in Kenya. So these include both forest and savanna elephants, common in some parts, and Kibali, Uganda again. In terms of forest properties, mean DBH from trail, distance from the trail, 52 centimeters to 23 centimeters. Qualitatively, mean DBH decreases away from the trail. So the smaller vegetation is more abundant where the elephant trails are not involved. This comes from Salonga. Understory openness and elephant encounter rate. There is some regression equation given. Dung encounter rate increases linearly with understory openness. Okay. Tree species composition and distance from tail. Qualitatively, distribution of fruit preferred and browse preferred trees varies as a function of distance from trails. So it's a nice report in terms of the details of feeding and impacts on ecosystems have been synthesized. Seedling and sapling density and damage near elephant trees. Elephant presence increases chances of damage to seedlings at 84% and saplings at 24%, and above ground carbon has this regression in terms of the distance. Qualitatively, percentage change in above ground carbon Y as a function of elephant distance density X. Reduced density of plants between less than 1 centimeter and greater than or equal to 1 meter in height in terms of stem density. These are from various Gabon places. Stem scarring for DBH of greater than 10 centimeters. 16% of stems scarred from Uganda. Debarking height, species specific results with percentage of debarked trees, average diameter and debarking height being monitored in a qualitative sense. So just get the main idea that elephants are very much a part of the ecosystem where they live, and their grazing and feeding habits and their trampling of the trees is not something that is harmful to the overall ecosystem, especially when you consider it in terms of above ground carbon storage. Of course, as we said, nature makes the rules and biology finds the loopholes. So elephants follow their rules in terms of how big they can get when the size becomes a limitation in terms of supplying energy to the extremities and so on and so forth. A lot of nice ecological work exists on those for all the species. What is the maximum size of a species on the planet, and what determines this size, for example, and then how they meet their nutrition requirements, food requirements, and how their habits affect the ecosystems on which they depend. If there is a positive effect overall, so if you think of the health of the ecosystem, where you think about complexity or biodiversity, resilience to perturbations like the elephants, but also climate, droughts, extreme events, etc., and productivity, where the total production of the ecosystem as a whole, let's say in terms of the total carbon sequestered or captured by the ecosystem, is it maximized by the species that depends on that ecosystem. So in that sense, elephants are not external to the ecosystem, but they are part of the ecosystem. So in a natural situation, they have evolved together to co-benefit. Elephant benefits, and then the ecosystem overall benefits as well. Okay, so let's leave it here. It's a nice addition to the previous podcast on elephants as nature-based solutions.